All right, so let's continue with our flying a ship scene, and let's add something that the ship can actually collide with. There's a couple ways that you can detect if two objects are intersecting. One would be using event listeners, which we're not going to get into this video, but just so you know, that's another one. What we're going to do is actually use the physics bodies to detect whether or not two of them are colliding with each other, because hey, what the heck, we've already got a physics body set up for our ship. So let's add some stars in here, and I'm just going to drag out a color sprite. This is going to be star 1. Let's just give it a name of star, and of course, as usual, we want to give it a custom class of element so we can actually interact with it. And with it still selected, let's go down over here to our physics definition. We're going to set this to be an alpha mask, and you'll notice that of course the alpha body around it, if you can see it, is just right around that star shape. How perfect is that? Pretty cool that that alpha mask option is in there now. And in terms of the body types, it really doesn't matter if you set either of these. You just might as well toggle off affected by gravity, even though we really don't have gravity applied in this space scene. But you know, when the ship immediately collides with the star, it is going to make it get removed from the scene and basically incremented with a variable that we'll show. But I guess if we did leave in this option of the ship being able to push this entire ring, then if that ran into the star, you could have the star move around. So we'll leave it at dynamic, allows rotation. Now here's the important thing: we need to set up a category mask, collision mask, and contact mask for this shape. And don't think of this in terms of if you're familiar with masking in Flash or Photoshop, it's different. Mask is really just basically an ID. So the ID for our star is going to be 2. And what we want to do is specify what other IDs the star can collide with and contact with. And I'm just going to set them both to being 1, which is going to be the category mask of our ship. So let's jump over to this guy now, and you'll see that we need to now put in 1 for here, and then because we want this to again collide and contact with the star, we're going to put in the star's collision mask and contact mask. Now the collision mask doesn't really matter that much here. It's really the contact mask, because what's happening is the code is going to be listening out for a contact, which is program-wise, it's a little bit different than a collision. A collision implies that the two can bump off of each other. But you know, using the collision mask is a way, if you wanted to, you could set that to be 0, and that would mean that the ship would not actually ever intersect with the star, but it could still register a contact. Okay, so in other words, it could go like through something. All right, so we got just a review. So this has a category mask of 2, and we want it to listen out for things that it contacts with a mask, with a category mask of 1. Okay, so that's what's important here, and we're going to go back over here to our property list. And we want to add in to our elements now a star. So you can just copy one of your other ones that you've already got in here, type in star for the name of it, and we don't need a touch event, but if you want to just leave that in there, we can rename this to event with contact 1. So it's actually going to be our star that is listening out for a contact of 1, and that is of course our ship choice. So we don't actually have to do anything inside of our ship to make this happen. Now when we unfold this, just get rid of the property that you've got in there, although we could have left that in. That would be a neat way to kind of navigate the book. You could have a ship fly into certain things and open a page based on that. But what we're going to do is just first off remove something. All right, so this is a property, and an event, and you can put in any one of your events that you usually could for touching things, running just events, whatever it is. All those can go in here, and the remove property, you would oftentimes you'd put in here something that you want to remove. So for example, we could put in here up, that would remove the up button. We don't want to do that, but there's a neat little option that if you leave this blank, what it's going to do is it's going to remove whoever ran it. All right, so in this case, that's going to be our star. And what that allows us to do is to go back over here to our scene, if it will open up, and we can put multiple stars in there, and basically the kit is going to know that as soon as the ship runs into that particular star, that's the one that ends up getting removed. So let's go ahead and put this into action. And we don't have to make any changes to the ones that we duplicate here, so I might as well grab a few at once. Although what you could do is change the size or texture of them, because remember, really all that matters here is that it has that name of star, and the look, all that is totally up to us. So we could rotate them. Again, we could scale them up some. And you'll notice that physics body stays nice and around there. Not that it really matters too much. You could even just have a circular physics body, and it's going to do its job in terms of detecting a collision. Okay, so now we've got our 6 stars on here, and each one of them has the same exact properties as the one single element that we have in the property list named element. Obviously, uploading while teaching a tutorial is not going too well for me. Let me pause this. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and just build it as it is. We didn't really need to look at anything else in there. So let's just continue from where we left off. There we go. And I'm going to move the ship over here. I'm going to move it down, and hopefully go in there, and it removes that particular star, right? So we can fly around and collect these. And what you can do now is think about putting in a label to note how many you have collected. So let's go do that. No, I've actually already got the label dictionary in here. So just unfold that. Let's add in a new label to use, and this is going to be star label, we'll call it. And let's set that to dictionary so we can put some properties into it, and add another one in. We're going to set text, we've seen this before, text with saved value. This time around, the saved value will be a star count, so really just a variable name of our choosing here. And then let's add in a prefix. This is something I don't think we've looked at yet in this series. So it's going to basically use whatever value you've got right here, but then add in something before it. So it could just be stars, and you could even put in here a postfix option as well. We don't really need to. Well, you know what? Actually, I guess we could. How about postfix? And spaces do get recognized in here, so I'm going to put a little space out, so there's a bit of a buffer between that and the number. So we'll just put in collected, and then under events, I might already have this in here because I worked it a little bit. We want to set the values, or set values, and have star count always be 0 initially, and you can set that as a number. The reason we're doing that is because these do get saved as NS user defaults. So if you didn't reset this count each time the page is loaded up, it's just going to retain whatever it had, whatever number was in there before. So someone might jump at the page and see, oh wait, what? There's 15 stars already collected. So that's going to reset that for us. Now, of course, all we need to do is go add a label onto the stage that has the name of star label. I'm just going to paste this in because I like the settings I've already got for my text and everything from the other pages. But of course, you know, if you are just joining us, if you wanted to you could just drag out a label over here too. So the name is going to be star label, and then just for the default text, you could just put in here something similar to what you had, what you're going to have later. So, you know, something like stars 0 collected, just to give you kind of an idea of you know, the size and everything like that. But this should be good to go. The only thing that we really need to do now is make it so that every time we collect a star, we're going to increment our star count value. So head back over the property list. Almost done. And there's a few ways to add values. Let's look at the easiest one. So let's fold these back up. Let's find our star, and then every time it connects with contact 1, we're going to add in one more property here, and this is going to be called increment 1, which means it's going to add 1 to that value, and you even have an option to go -1 all the way through -10 on up to 10. So it's kind of a convenient option there. So it gives you, kind of 10 to 20 presets to increment, and there you go. So it's going to increment up the value of whatever star count currently is. And then the other way to do this would be, if you wanted to, you could throw in add values, and this would be a, oh, you know what? Well, let me set it to dictionary. I might have to reference the documentation. Might be add two values, but what you end up doing is specifying the value over here, the variable I should say, and then the amount that you want to add up on this side. So you could add 1,000 to whatever star count currently is, and this actually is add two values. So there's two ways of doing it. Of course, in this case you'd probably just want to add one, but increment one simplifies it a little bit because you don't have to make a new dictionary inside of there. But this should be good to go. So let's run it one more time on the iPad. So let's go down, go grab some stars, boink, boink, boink. There you go. So you got all of them collected, and maybe the objective is to go on the inside of the sphere after you've got them all. So hey, you know what? Let's think about doing that. So back over in your property list, let's fold up some things. What we're going to do is create a new dictionary called event listeners, and what this allows you to do is listen for certain conditions that are occurring in the scene in real time, and respond to them with events. And of course, the usual theme, and you can put in here any event you want. All right, so let's make this a dictionary and unfold this. Now the first thing that you're going to do is essentially come up with your own internal name for a grouping of things that you're going to listen for, or even if it's just one thing you're listening for. So in our case, let's just call this listen to go to new page. The name of it really doesn't matter. Again, this is kind of just for you. This is going to be a dictionary, and inside of here we are going to start to define what's required of something in the scene to run events. So if you wanted to, you could go ahead and put in here your events that you want to occur. And again, this is going to be a dictionary as usual. And then just for right now, here's a nice little thing that we haven't taught yet. You can just put in here output, and this is just going to send a little message to the output window. And we'll say this this condition was met. Okay, and that way we don't have to necessarily jump to a new page, although obviously we could. So there's our events, and let's create a new dictionary inside of here and define at least one of the things that we're going to listen out for. So I guess let's start with our star count. So we could put in here listen for, and unfold this, create a new entry inside of here, and we could put in here the star count, and then put in here a number for what we want that to be. All right, so maybe it's 5. But oftentimes you want to kind of listen to see if something is not necessarily exactly equal to it, but over a certain threshold. So what we could do then is basically listen for star count being greater than 5. Okay, and we got 6 stars out there, so that'll work nicely. But just know that you do have that option, and if you want to skip into the documentation at this point and kind of get a feel for what we're talking about, go over here to listeners. I'm toying with the idea of renaming that event listeners. I probably should. And then you can kind of get an overview of all the conditions that you can listen for, and plenty more examples other than just this video. But sticking with me now. So this is going to be one of them. And if we are going to put in more than one condition, you have the option to specify whether or not every condition needs to be met before these events are run. And in this case we do want that, because we want to check to see if the user has collected those stars, and then whether or not they are intersecting with that kind of inner circle. So we're going to put in here meet all conditions in group, and this is our group, right? So this is going to be a Boolean value, so just yes or no. By default that is no. So this would run right now. Well, we've only got one condition here anyway. And then the next thing that we want to listen out for is an intersection. So if you want to, you can just copy and paste this. Let's change it to listen for intersection. unfold that, and we want to listen out for our ship choice, our main character. Don't really like that name for it though. And then switch this to string, so we're going to listen out for that inner ring, right? And that is, of course, this guy right here. Well, that's our outer ring. We've got our inner ring inside of there, and double check, make sure that does have a custom class of element. Might not actually need to in this case, but this should be set up for us now. So let's go ahead and kind of review things. Or just look at them all in one nice big glance right here. Pause the video if you need to. One thing you could do as well is also put in here multiple entries for listen for. So if you had multiple variables that you wanted to check the values of, you do have that option. And I think we're ready to test it. So let's give this a shot. All right, I'm going to move this up here so we can keep our eye on the output window, and let's go collect some stars. All right. Oh, I do want to be sure I get all of them. And of course, we shouldn't see anything yet because remember, we're listening for all those conditions in the group to be met. So I kind of got to wait to get inside the inner ring. Let's see my opening coming up. All right, I'm going for it. And sure enough, it says this condition was met. So that is certainly working, and it would be a good idea to give people an indication that they need to collect the stars before entering the inner ring. So let's head back over here to our main scene, and we're going to create a couple more labels here. The first one, let's call this instructions label, and put a little note. Basically, it says stars left to collect, and let's set the size a little bit lower so it's not as prominent. And then right on top of that, we're going to put in here a label called success. Now, the instruction label is going to be dependent on the value of stars left, whereas the success label, I'm going to put in here the text that's basically going to be hard coded in here. It's not going to change, so whatever I put in here now is going to be seen in the actual scene. So this is just going to say congrats, you got all the stars, now enter the vortex. Okay, and that's about the 5th time I've done that, written vortex with a T at the end. All right, I'm just going to put these right on top of each other because the success label you're obviously not going to see right away, so it's going to be one of the things that we need to hide. And let's go into our property list now. Oh, you know what? I want to double check that I gave that. Yes, all right, success label and instructions label, plural. We can't forget that. All right, so under fly ship, let's run an event right away that's going to hide the success label. So just type in here hide, and then we specify who we want to hide. That's going to be our success label, and there's a companion property for this just called show that could be used to show it, which we'll use later. And then we also want to include in here another value to set by default. So just go ahead and copy and paste what you've got in here, and this is going to be stars left. Okay, so let's put in here 6 because we've got 6 stars to collect. And then from there, let's fold that up. Let's go into our labels and copy this one out. This is going to be instructions label. Unfold that, and the text that is going to populate this is, or the value I should say that's going to populate this is going to be our stars left, so whatever that value currently is. And then the prefix, that's going to be you need to collect this many stars before entering vortex. There we go. Okay, I'm going to put a little space in there. All right, so anytime the stars left value changes, the kit knows to update any labels that use that value. So that guy's pretty well set. Then what we need to do is go into our event listeners, and we're going to create a new one of these. So if you want to, you can just copy and paste this inside of here, and let's call this hide label. Okay. We just need one condition inside of here. We're just going to listen out for stars left equaling 0. So put in here stars left. And when that equals 0, what we're going to do is make it so that we hide our instructions label, and then we want to show our success label. So put in there show success label. All right, now the last thing that we need to do, I knew there was something, is we need to go into our elements, and every time you collide with our star, oh, I already put it in here, we want to put in here increment -1 stars left. All right, and of course, as I was describing before, you could put in here -4, -5, -6, on up to -10, and if you need to go past that, then use the add to values option. So I think we're ready to go. Let's fold these back up, make it a little bit prettier. Maybe I'll leave this one open so you can kind of get an idea. All right, I'm going to try it. Okay, so let's go on down, get a star. That's a good sign. Yep, there we go. Okay, now let's, oh, don't want to miss any. All right, go back over this way. Get that guy. And sure enough, the instructions label disappeared, and it's now prompting me to go inside the vortex. And as we all know, that's going to just send an output message right now. But of course, that could be what sends us on to the next page. And if you wanted, you could always go back and just test to be sure everything resets normally. So this is back to 0, and that is back at 6. So there you go. Pretty cool, right? It's actually been a few months since I've really used the Storyteller's Kit, and coming back to it now is actually kind of exciting because I'm like kind of remembering that there are just so many possibilities with this kind of event system where you can virtually do anything and you can listen out to all sorts of cool stuff. So we'll continue with a new page in another video.